All right, hey guys, Bryan Schroeder here with Faster Funds Lending. We are out at a house that one of our borrowers bought, and I wanted to shoot this video on street creep.
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test.
It manifests as a foundation issue in the basement, a big crack in your foundation that can be really scary to the typical buyer. And if you don't fix it, it can cause some really big problems. But if you catch it at the right time, the fix is relatively easy. So we're going to talk about that here today. So we're outside the house right now. I don't know how well you can see this, but behind me, there's a street that kind of runs right into, obviously the street that we're on, and right into our driveway. And what can cause street creep is that street, concrete expands and contracts just a little bit with the weather. And over time, the concrete street can just expand just a little bit, each little section, and every section is butted up against the next one, and it has to just push. And it keeps pushing on the concrete. That street is pushing on the concrete. That's the street that goes by here, which is pushing on the driveway here, which pushes onto the floor of the garage, which pushes onto the foundation of the house. And when we go inside here, we're going to show you how this pushing has manifested into a big old crack in the foundation of the basement. And then we're also going to talk about how to fix that issue so it doesn't continue. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, street creep. And I'll tell you, street creep can represent an opportunity. A lot of people get freaked out by this big crack in their basement, and they just won't even buy the house because, it just scares them. And what we want to do is we want to educate you so you can recognize when a foundation issue is a foundation issue you need to be scared of versus a foundation issue that can be repaired relatively easily and relatively affordably with a simple process. And we're going to be talking about what that is. So that's what we're doing here, educational video on street creep. So when you have a crack in the foundation in the basement and you're thinking that it might be street creep, how to kind of determine whether or not it is street creep. So there's a couple telltale signs. When they pour the driveway for this house and the sideway for this house, they're typically going to keep the sidewalk lines running straight here. And you can see that this line that they have in the driveway is offset from the line they have in the sidewalk by about an inch. You see that about an inch there? And as opposed to if you look down here at the next driveway over here, you can see that the sidewalk that they have next to the grass just goes straight. There's no offset here. The line kind of just lines up with the line of the driveway. All right, then let me show you the one that's, I think, the #1 best telltale sign to recognizing street creep. And it's right inside the front of the garage. So if you walk into the garage here, the best place to diagnose whether you have street creep going on inside the house is right inside the garage. Because when you see this gap here, it's about an inch big, and it's about the same as what we are seeing in the sidewalk there. But when they poured this concrete floor for the garage, there was no gap there. That was right up against the concrete. So this shows with 100% certainty that this concrete pad has moved an inch toward the house. And when this big old concrete pad moves an inch toward the house, it's pushing on that foundation And therefore, it causes that crack to show up in the basement because that basement wall has moved an inch. If this concrete has moved an inch, it's butted right up against that basement foundation wall, and that foundation wall has moved an inch. So how street creep manifests in the foundation of a basement is it pushes on this wall, and this wall has pushed about an inch in, and you can see it because over here on this side, you know, we showed that inch out there, how it moved on the driveway and how it had moved in the garage. This wall has moved an inch inside here. Look at this scary crack. I mean, this crack is going to freak out the average homeowner. So they're not going to understand what's going on there. So, and if this street creep isn't fixed, the driveway will just keep pushing on this, and eventually this wall would fall in, which you don't want that to happen. So the repair outside is relatively easy if you take care of it now. And then cosmetically, this can be fixed inside because there's still structural integrity in this wall the way it stands right now. But if that kept pushing on this, eventually the structural integrity of this wall would be gone. So the repair right now is a relatively cosmetic repair, and we'll show you how the company repairs it here in our next video or later in the video. So we got the street creep pushing on the wall over here, and you can see that it's creating this crack here, and it's usually a diagonal crack because that's the way concrete cracks if the wall is pushing in at the top. So this is definitely something that'll need to be addressed. It's a relatively easy fix cosmetically. I don't think that's going to cause any real water damage or anything like that. Now, obviously, if the street creep continued, it would. All right, we're back out here at this house where we have the street creep going on, and the repair is done. And we wanted to show you what they actually did. So we kind of showed you the before, but what they did is they cut a trench in the concrete. It's about that wide, I don't know, 4 inches wide, give or take. And so they just cut the concrete out there so there's space. Because what's happening is that street is pushing on the driveway, which is pushing on this garage floor, which is pushing on the foundation. So they needed to create some space for that, because the street is probably going to continue pushing. So we created some space there. What they did is they filled, they cut out the concrete. They filled it with just simple styrofoam, nothing fancy. They cut the styrofoam down so they could fill it in this hole. And then on top of that, they put some epoxy to seal it really well. And then they just put sand down over top. So if this street continues to move, which I suspect it will, it's just going to push that styrofoam's got room to push together. So it's just creating that space so it doesn't continue to push on the foundation inside. So they just cut across the right in front of the garage on both driveways here because we got a 3-car wide garage. But that space allows to take the pressure off of the foundation so it won't continue to push on it and continue to have cracks and so forth. So the fix for street creep is relatively simple. You just get out a big saw, cut a trench, and and fill it in. Obviously, on the inside, they did some cosmetic repairs to stabilize it, but this is the real repair that's getting rid of the cause. The cause is the street pushing on the driveway, pushing on the garage floor, pushing on the foundation. That's not happening anymore, so that foundation should be good for the future. Hey guys, we're back out at the house after this street creep has been repaired. And if you guys remember before, there was a big crack here, and this chunk was kind of pushing a little bit. And that was coming from the street, pushing on the driveway, pushing on the garage floor, pushing on this wall. Well, it's been fixed outside, as we saw, and this is what they did in the basement. It looks perfect down here. I mean, there's no cracks visible. This is a carbon fiber membrane that is just gonna hold this super tight. So this repair has been professionally done. It's not gonna move anymore in the future. They did a really nice job here. So around the corner here, if you guys remember, this wall was pushing in and there was this 45-degree angle, I'll call it that, crack that was here. That's this concrete pushed in here, and the wall has to crack where it's pushing. So they've repaired this crack also. So it's in great shape. This is a perfect repair. It's gonna last a long time. Just talked to the owner of this house, and we were just chatting, and he told us that this house was built 19 years ago. So this driveway, and I showed you around the corner here, it's moved about an inch, and you can tell that by this little opening right there. That 1 inch movement was over 19 years. So this house has been here 19 years. This driveway's moved 1 inch in those 19 years. So we got a 4-inch gap here. If you just kind of do the math, this gap should last us for about 80 years, give or take. So I think it's a super quality repair. And he was also telling me that it cost him $6,000 to get this repair done. And you know, I don't know if you guys remember the before, but the before kind of looked a little scary in the basement. And you know, that'll drive away a lot of buyers. You know, that'll freak a lot of buyers out. And I think a lot of people will think, holy smokes, what's going on with this foundation? This could cost me $20,000, $30,000. But no, the repair was $6,000. So if you see street creep in the future, know that it's a relatively easy repair and you'll know how to do it now. Sure. I hope you enjoyed this video on street creep.